Welcome back, everybody. Thank you so much for your patience there while we're getting this next set all set up for you guys. Took a little bit, but I'm King Batu. I'll be your chair or desk one here as we're going to break down this collegiate set of Group B. We're going to have the University of Alabama Crimson, or Alabama Crimson, I'm going to call because that's a mouthful, going up against the likes of A&M White, and I have with me Dr. Thanatos on the desk. And I'm going to start with a question for you, sir. I don't know if you got to see any of the collegiate last season, but I did, and it was very competitive. How excited are you for this?
I'm very excited. I even got to play in some of it, and I didn't do too well, but those games were so much fun. Some of these players are definitely people to watch out for, and some of those SOC, SEC range players. To be completely honest, I think there is some big potential here in some of these leagues, and specifically here on University of Alabama Crimson there, Fireball. Ninja being a name pretty common there up in the Masters ranked games, for example.
Yeah, I have heard of him as well, seen him around in some of my buddies' games. Quite a notable person. He will be rocking the jungle here for University of Ala Crimson. So, having that experience, is there any sort of picks that you expect from either of these teams, or anything in particular that you want to see going into this first game?
I mean, I think the standard is what's going to pull out here. I think Warrior Jungles are still have no sign of stopping until the next match, but as of right now, Warrior Jungles are definitely still going to be name of the game. And past that, I think it's just a little bit more around comfort picks because all these top mages have been getting banned out consistently over and over. So it's really just picking what you think is, good in your team comp and that you're very particularly strong at.
All right, with that, we're going to jump right into these picks and bans here. Like you mentioned, some strong picks that we can see around here. Definitely be interesting to kind of see. But as we start off the bans, looking like the first one's going to pop through here. And it's going to be the Artemis, so not starting off terribly. A&M White do have that option of having that first pick. So they're going to kind of pick and choose to kind of what they want to ban and kind of leave Alabama Crimson to kind of weed out what they don't want. They're going to ban that Tiamat. What do you kind of feel is stronger right now, that first pick or that second pick?
I really think second pick is just a stronger spot at the moment. It just feels like there's so many picks that are just so oppressive and scary in just about every single lane. And that's kind of the advantage there of that second pick, is you can kind of do a pseudo throwaway, more of like a targeted ban, and that leaves open an extra one of these top tier picks kind of thing. Like, for example, right now, Osiris definitely something that I would imagine both teams to really be looking at. Athena, another pick that's often looked at, not always the greatest pick, but definitely something people like to prioritize, and prioritize A&M White will do.
Yeah, and it's a very strong pick. Got that 2-7 Kenton. Did see it on our last set. Not have any success, going 0-2, so hopefully for A&M White, they're going to want to have a little bit more success on this pick than that previous set. But like you mentioned, so many things that are mentioned, that Osiris still open, the Ardio. Another pick that we've seen a lot of there is they're going to look at that now, Alabama Crimson. Not to mention, last set we saw Cerberus banned, I think, almost every single game. Yamoja have some good plays. So there's tons of pick here on both sides. So it's more than one of those where the traditional has always been, in the first pick you want to try to get that one strong pick that you have that advantage. Second pick you kind of want to trade, a 2-for-1 or even a 2-for-0 if you can kind of finagle that. But right now in the meta, there's 5 or 6 picks where really it's just a matter of which pick you want the most and which 2 picks you want the next most after that.
Yeah, I mean, and with this Ardio being picked here already, a new pick that after those buffs there most recently has been getting tons and tons of play, just Vamp Shroud, endless survivability on top of all those heals, and Osiris, yet again, no surprise to see this one come out. Likely going to be there in that jungle, but there is a little bit of flex potential here with that Ardio and Osiris. So I'm interested to see if Alabama Crimson want to try to, move those picks around a little bit, or if they're just going to go with the good old tried and true Ardio solo Osiris jungle.
Yeah, I think that's kind of the stronger where these picks are going to be. Osiris really strong, just that early pressure, that level 1, 2, and 3 where he can really get you just that farm potential out in the early game, and Ardio in that solo lane more apt to be able to build that Vamp Shroud, have that sustain to where you really need to build anti-heal specifically for the Ardio. But on the other side, A&M White looking for some picks we don't see too much of now. Merlin, while not a bad mage, is kind of fallen to the wayside as gods that we've seen banned, like the Persephone, Morgan Le Fay, Tiamat have kind of taken the reins up there, as well as a lot of Origin, and as well as the Tsukiyomi, which I can't think of the last time I saw Tsukiyomi get picked.
it feels like he just kind of fell off, and I'm not really sure why, because as a hunter player, I still absolutely despise that character. The disarm and the stun are just so annoying, and those caltrops in his three are probably the single most annoying ability in the game. And I think paired with something like a Merlin, you might have a little bit of fun there with that void stance of Merlin kind of pulling them into the Tsukiyomi caltrops, maybe something a little bit funky there. But with that Raijin being open, I am surprised they went to that Merlin because Alabama Crimson right away pick up that Raijin in return, which, yeah, that's just gonna win you a lane, and you're just gonna try to go from there, basically.
Yeah, Raijin not the best pickup against the Osiris, so maybe they're just thinking there. But again, Merlin does have that flicker, but still not really a whole lot of self-appeal outside that void stance to try to get him off. But yeah, I think a lot of with that Tsukiyomi is where we've seen that the warrior jungles come through, but as we've kind of got this first half of the draft that have fallen through for us, A&M White seemed to have that end of last season kind of top picks, that Tsukiyomi, that Merlin, of course the Athena after she got those taunt buffs. Meanwhile, Alabama Crimson to be more of what we've seen since the recent buffs. So two strong drafts, but tried and sure, I think Alabama Crimson is sitting a little bit prettier, but with some tanks position still open, solo, and of course that flex we potentially talking about, the Cerberus and the Emoji taken away. I think we're going to see, actually, I'll stop right there, is the Fenrir banned away from Alabama Crimson, so looking like they don't want this to go, even though they have the Tsukiyomi already picked.
Yeah, a little bit of flex there with that Fenrir. Can go to the jungle, can go to the support, and does pretty well in both those positions. And Tsukiyomi in the same right could go solo or jungle, so good little bit of just, get away some more of this flex potential. This Apollo ban, I'm a little surprised by. I don't see him as one of these top carries at the moment, but if A&M White have done their homework, it is likely that they are a little bit concerned about Alabama Crimson and their Apollo play, which is likely. But Ymir Hover here for Alabama Crimson kind of shows you right now where their tanks are all going with that lock-in. Gonna go support, and those walls there are gonna be really, really helpful against this Athena and this Tsukiyomi specifically.
Yeah, and as well with that Merlin, well, he does have that flicker. It's not the longest range with Ymir Wall, how far he can go. So if you're able to catch this Merlin with his flicker down or force it out and still wall him off, this Ymir just into this draft has a lot of potential. Not so much into that Izanami that we see hovered, and the Balone is kind of an interesting pick here. Does have that disarm, so not totally against it with the Osiris, as well as it looks like Alabama Crimson's still waiting on their Hunter pick, but I don't know if I'm going to take her over some of the Guardians that we've seen kind of dominate that solo lane meta right now.
Yeah, I'll be honest. When the other team picks a Guardian, it almost feels like you need to, go exactly in that same spot with the Guardian solo. It just feels like these Guardian solos with this Vamp Shroud and just people like Artio with this endless healing, it almost feels like you're at a disadvantage going a physical because they can rush, Breastplate of Valor, for example, and it's just even harder to kill them than it already is. But I want to touch on this Izanami because this is something that has been seeing a lot more play recently, and it's not even strictly due to that Silver Branch bow build. It just seems like people are really starting to see the value she can bring in both just split push potential and just endless poke. It almost feels like with those autos, just easily taking oboes, the Odysseus bow procs, things like that. I think it's an interesting pick to see. And with Alabama Crimson finishing off with that Rama, it almost feels like this Izanami is going to try to just kind of hold lane, try not to lose too much of it, and then just kind of do her work late game.
Yeah, but something else as well. We saw in the last set, it really put on this Rama falling all the way to the 10th pick. Not even going to be worried about his own Ymir walls. Got that range, is kind of dominated that lane as well. I might be a little biased here, but I think I got to give it right now to Alabama Crimson. While they do have some weaknesses, the Ymir very immobile. The Osiris without that ult can be very immobile, as well as this Artio does not have any CC immunity. So there's definitely some focus that they can have, and what I do admit is a decently high CC comp here for A&M White. I really don't know if I can see it just having that quite of the execution to make it work.
I have to agree with you there. I like the idea of A&M White, but to me, it feels like they're really just solely relying on this Athena taunt to just drop all their damage in, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. But when you have such a tanky team from the side of Alabama Crimson, it feels like that's just not going to happen, and Crimson are just going to be able to run down these carries and really take care of them. So, I mean, I'm on the same boat as you. I got to give it to Alabama Crimson here just off these picks.
Well, we won't hold you here any longer. We're going to jump in the game, and we have the pleasure of having the Supersonic Blur and Vengeance on the cast.
Thank you very much. Over on the desk, game one underway between Alabama Crimson and AM White here in this best of 3 game. And already we're seeing some spicy looking picks here, Vengeance. The ROM 10th pick is a Nami. It looks like we're in for a good show.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. The Supersonic Blur. These picks, it's interesting to actually see this Bologna chosen for this solo lane. I mean, we've seen a resurgence of these Guardians being these priorities over in the solo lane, Ardio being one of the bigger ones, and it's a little concerning that Bologna would be chosen into that, mainly because, sure, you've got your bludgeon and you also have your disarm, but it's not going to help you too much against an Ardio in solo lane. It, as mentioned the other night, it's like King Arthur. You're just using multiple abilities.
That as well. You're getting MP5, you're getting movement speed from it, you're stripping enemy protections because of the passive. The big thing for me as well is just how easily it is to get those physical protections. I mean, you look at Breastplate of Valor 1 and the Vampiric Shroud, both of those with physical protections. It's going to be so difficult for this Bologna to box in. I mean, just look at this.
Oh, this is definitely something that it's not that easy for any warrior to compete against early on. And speaking of not competing, this dual lane, the Mir is just showing that aggression with his passive. And honestly, for this dual lane, that's going to be the hardest part about this early game is with this Izanami. Even though you have good clear, it's if Mashi hits you successfully, his passive just stacks, and that's a lot more damage to be taking.
It certainly is, and you can see how aggressive Mashi wants to be. They've opted for multi-potions instead of a Hand of the Gods to help early clear. They want to be aggressive in this duo lane. We see a Bracer come down, though, which will help a little bit, but mid lane, Fireball Ninja picking up first blood. Good bit of aggression. We saw a little bit of a bit of a scrap around the left-hand harpies, but it looks like a transition just a little bit further on. So really good look, getting that Osiris ahead. Now opting even to go for a back camp invade here. So just trying to push that lead as far as they can.
And that's just good recognition on his part. He's got the Mannequin Scepter, getting the first blood. He has the aggression off that. Knows exactly where Blessed is standing in terms of mana and health. Can't contest. And it's honestly just unfortunate. Joe was only level 2. So whether or not he had his flicker available, even with the Sands of Time, whether it was already used to get out and he just stepped out, or he didn't have up yet, either way, it's just not the situation you want to be in, especially when that is an Osiris jungle, because you have Tsukiyomi, which is a jungler we haven't seen for some time, but he's not wanting to fall behind this Osiris.
No, and it certainly makes it a little bit more difficult to try and make an impact in the game, as I do believe we may have seen the blue buff stripped away from this side. So Fireball Ninja's really running the jungle at this point, taking that lead that they had and using it to influence some of the other lanes even slightly now, as I think that's pretty much every buff now being invaded aside from the speed and red. So not too bad of a look here in Alabama Crimson. Good freeze and a really nice wall, but keep an eye on where this jungler is coming in around the back. It will be a 2v3 in this scenario, but helpers are just a little bit too low to keep this going right now. Focus is a little split, but a good stun might be enough to find it, but no, it looks like Ymir is just going to be able to walk away from that. A&M White just a little too split on their target focus.
That was a little interesting decision making there from Blessed. He decided to start on Zelu, but then changed his focus to Mashi at the last second. I really feel like he could have done so much more if he had started off trying to get that route onto Zelu instead, and they may have actually been able to turn and find him in trade, or at least force Mashi into a situation of giving up his life to save his ADC.
So you're going to see a little bit of a tiff again around these oracles. A 3v1 situation, but no, Fireball Ninja still picks up Blessed. Into the backline goes the Raijin. Taiko drums are here, needs one more shot, and will find it. That's going to pick up another member. Now more members from Alabama Crimson are here, and the entire jungle has their name on it. Oda 5 shutting out A&M White at this point in the game. And all that over 2 oracles there. I'm surprised we saw A&M really try and invest so much so quickly.
Honestly, this was just more of a situation of they saw an opportunity in a 3v1 to try and take Ninja down. Unfortunately for them, he had Stone Cutting Sword online already. None of them had any of their first items finished, so he's already got the power advantage and due to Stone Cutting's passive, he's stripping away any sort of protections that are there, which is just base protections right now anyways. So level 5 versus a couple level 3s and level 4, he's got complete advantage, and communication between his teammates just absolutely perfect, on point. We saw the Zord able to come in, clean up one of the other 2 kills, ultimates being used, and I mean, full benefit for them out of that.
And the fact that Zord is so willing to go, okay, I'm gonna drop my 2, instead of just going for the percussive storm, trying to play from range, they just go straight in with the Thunder Crash. They know they've got the ultimate available to them. They have absolutely no fear or worries that they're in a situation where they can't do that. And I love to see that. A lot of times, the way you play Raging is you have to play aggressively. If you think back to Captain Twig in the mid lane sort of situation, Twig was jumping in every chance they got, and it just shows how aggressive this god can and honestly should be.
Well, that aggression does also stem from their lead, of course. If he's fallen behind, and sometimes depending on his matchup, even you don't really want to play aggressively. You want to say that teleport for getting out. Speaking of needing to get out.
Ooh, good disarm though. Does cause a little bit of time. Five Ninja's gonna have to disengage from now, but it's not gonna save enough time. Just far too tanky at these terrible 2 right now. Piercing Moonlight comes on through, but I'm not sure that's really gonna help too much. Defender Invisible will do a little bit, so it ends up in a 2v2 scenario, but even still, there's 2 tanky targets that are causing too much trouble. Mages are on their way over. This is still between the tier 1 and tier 2, and Alabama Crimson solo lane are just going to be able to walk away through that. It was a little rough in there, but not too much for them.
Not too much, except for the fact they get this full wave and a half under this tier 1 tower, and this tower's at risk of falling. Thankfully, Rosie Panda is here to help out a solo laner with the clear, so the tower's not going to fall as of yet. But all of that only benefited Crimson in the fact that they nearly were able to get a tier 1 7 minutes in, and it did cause quite a bit of dismay across the board. I mean, you saw Tooth Joe rotate in instead of trying to farm and stay ahead, or even just make sure Zord stays there. That you'd already taken so much of a loss from A&M White just to try and use for protection. So all the add investment just to allow minions in doesn't really feel like the rotation was worth it at all.
Certainly not, but this is a rotation I think that is going to be worth it. Greater Scorpion almost instantly, the moment it's looked at, taken down. This 3,000 gold lead for Alabama Crimson. They're not sitting on it, which I really like to see. They're going to go for a Blink Freeze. That's blessed in a very unfortunate situation. Does get a little bit of CC up, but Maxi's going to find the last hit anyway. Thunder Crash on in. Beautiful wall, stopping Red Rosie from being able to peel for their teammate. Will cost them their life. 2 members, the Gold Fury, Greater Scorpion, and a red buff invade as well. Alabama Crimson refuse to let their foot off the throat.
No, this is just excellent smite this early on for Alabama Crimson. They know what their advantage is, and they're playing exactly to it, to a T. They're not letting A&M White have any chance right now of turning the tides. Even just taking that advantage to do a simple red buff invade, getting kill off of it. And this is where A&M White, they have to make their decision. Do we just start turtling and farm as much as we can, or do we get an earlier group up somewhere and stop someone who's got this lead? Because we're talking 8 kills to none. There are bounties out there, and right now the biggest one's going to be on Zord and Fireball Ninja.
It certainly is, and that kind of leads right to the question of where do A&M look at as Alabama Crimson once again going on over to this solo side. The up-down followed straight by the up-down. Fireball Ninja will grab themselves a kill. May get turned around here. The Kusari Gambit just off the mark on the stun. It's not good, and now they're going to end up falling to Roughneck. In this neck of the woods, you cannot go into V1, but just to ask that question again, what is it and where is it that A&M can look at this point?
Honestly, they need to... I'm surprised we haven't seen more focus towards the dual lane, honestly. Mid and solo, there's been so much pressure this entire game. I mean, we saw the red buff invade come out. Solo lane, I didn't like this matchup from the start. This feels like Brekka's going to have to be doing something in the team fights instead of playing for anything early on. So A&M White, I'm kind of surprised that they haven't been looking for an opportunity again since early on to take Zella down. It just feels like they're trying to defend too much that's already lost.
Ooh, now three-man grouping, flicker away. Athena's just her getting absolutely chunked and run down at this point. Now Zella finds themselves a solo kill as well. Now we're going to see whether or not they can survive this. But there is a 4-level difference right now. Minions be damned. Good beads. It's getting close, but Zella's just got enough damage to deal with it. Iqbal is such a strong item to box, and Ram is someone who will happily take a box any day of the week.
Honestly, it's not even just the fact that he has Iqbal to me. It's Leather Cal on top of having that 4-level lead. If he is any other level below that, there's a much better chance that he dies to Bless. But the power, the health that comes just from getting that extra level, along with the Iqbal Leather Cal combo, it's going to be too much. I understand he was full health, but I did not like that engagement from the start.
Yeah, it's a bit rough in that situation, and now Alabama Crimson still not content with their current gold lead. They're going to try and extend it a little bit further. They'll get themselves the Gold Fury in no contest whatsoever. Now in a 2v1 situation, it feels like Alabama Crimson, they're almost forcing A&M White to play their game by constantly trying to cause these fights from erupting. A&M don't want to fight right now, but they're not getting a choice.
Well, unfortunately for them, and actually maybe fortunate right now, is the fact that Alabama Crimson, if their solo laner rotates to anywhere, they can full tower dive and realistically most likely not lose anything for it. We've already seen in the solo lane Roughneck have a go of diving the tier 1 tower multiple times and barely taking any damage. So if he's able to get that into a rotation, which I'm surprised he hasn't done already, having that tier 1 down, he could get the mid tier 1 down. He can get the tier 1 and left down with his teammates. It's just that much more that they have available if he decides to rotate soon.
Alright, and we are going to see some more of those items come online. Kin size now finished off a Fireball Ninja who's not content with the score line at 5-0-5. They want another one for it, and they will get it. 11 out of the 14 kills have their credit to it in some form or another. So Fireball Ninja, is this what we need to see from these kind of Osiris's? Because we've seen some of it before, but this just feels like on another world. Oh, that sack. Look at the way Alabama Crimson just absolutely deathball this game.
Well, is this what we need to see out of the Osiris's? If they get that early lead, yes, because he's been playing that, but he's also been playing it with his team. He hasn't been doing this a lot of solo attempt that we do see out of a lot of Osiris jungle players here recently. But they're just getting so far ahead, it really doesn't matter what he does or doesn't want to do.
VVVP, enemies are behind us. Ymir walking through the towers, able to just come in with a good stun. Dark Portal is not going to do enough. Unstoppable is the Osiris, the Lord of the Afterlife. Not even going to be needed, not even up at this current state, but good work and recognition from Alabama Crimson. Now, again, you don't see Little Roughneck rotate, but they're just starting to phase out of the jungle and see what else they can find now they've taken the tier 1.
Again, Roughneck, I want to see him clear this wave, rotate. Go to mid, go to left, do anything. The Fire Giant's not up yet, Pyromancer's not up yet, and realistically, you're the team that's going to be able to do them. You have a 9k gold lead almost, and I mean, we're only almost 14 minutes in. There's no reason for him to, with how tanky he is and is able to take towers for his team. I would not care about losing my tier 1 in solo. I would care more about pressure on the rest of the map and just trying to force the objectives there, because they're winning every fight they take right now. 16-0.
Mid.
They've only got 1 tower.
They certainly have, and that's an 8,500 gold lead. Let's try and push that a little bit further. Fireball Ninja gets their 8th kill of the game. Piercing Moonlight may cause a little bit of trouble going into the backline, but look how quickly Alabama Crimson group up. There is the shutdown, though. Blessed will get him out of this fight with a good chunk of change as Rhea makes the rotation, but Rekka cannot stick around. Up into the Astral Barrage goes the Ram. 2 shots needed, and that's all they'll get. Now they're going to start pushing down this mid tower as Little Roughneck makes a rotation themselves. So Rekka the first one to roam out, but unfortunately it doesn't result to anything. Mid tier 1 maybe being traded out on the left hand side. So that's at least Nanu getting some much needed farm.
Now, there was one good thing that came out of that fight, and that was the fact that Bless took down Ninja. That's a pretty big gold bounty, XP bounty as well. Yes, he's still 4 levels down, but that is showing that, that was the jungler going in to tank the tower. What if the solo laner had been there instead? What if it was a support who was able to get there first? There's a good chance that Alabama Crimson didn't lose anyone in that entire engagement, and possibly had a chance for a tier 2 with Nanu deciding to stay in left lane and split push down that tier 1.
Oh, I 100% agree on that situation. In fact, if we could just take a quick peek at the graphs, I'm pretty sure you can almost see the shutdown gold. Yeah, see that little dink up right there, just between the 8 and the 6? That's the shutdown gold. I'm almost certain of it. So you can see how much of an impact some of these players are going to have as they do start to brawl out with others. But the more of those members getting more and more items online, they're just grouping up and absolutely destroying anyone who dares go in. But it's A&M White who are kind of going in one by one. So obviously, Alabama Crimson are going to meat grind anyone who they see.
And this is the really unfortunate spot for A&M White. They are just staying so split up that this grouping from Alabama Crimson, they're not able to create any separation. It's just entrap, kill, kill, kill. And it's just going to continue on. And now because it's been brought to the solo side, the solo laner is here. And how are you expecting to get any kills out of this?
Oh, the Ram going for the solo, looking for Nanu. The Dark Portal comes out, but Basic's all that's going to be needed. They won't be able to grab it, but it was way too close. The minions! Sizzle, why did you not just auto attack, buddy? Oh, I'm so glad we got to see that. Meanwhile, the left on the right-hand side, the other 4 members from Alabama Crimson take down 2 more. So it ends up in a 2-for-none trade on the right-hand side and a 1-for-1 trade on the left. 24-2, Alabama Crimson are still in a fine spot. Blink forward from Bologna, pushes 2 members away, but it's not even close. Piercing Moonlight doesn't get to finish channeling, and they're already taken down. Solo side now, Phoenix exposed. And Alabama Crimson don't look like they're prepared to stop. 2 members come back, but honestly, at this point, I'm thinking they're setting up for fire.
Well, Alabama 100% should be. They're up 23 kills. They have a 2-tower lead. They're also up about 11,000 gold. They have no reason to not force this here. A&M White, they shouldn't even be trying to contest it. Just get ward vision around. Okay, I don't know what the point of stopping that back was. That's level 16 soul laner.
Because you can.
That's a 16 soul laner who's been beating you up all game. I don't think you want to continue that fight. But no, they definitely need to be just getting vision around fire, but not fighting it. Let Alabama Crimson have it and focus on your defense. Focus on farming up and getting back, because that trade that happened in dual lane favored Nanu 100%. That is a lead that Zelu could have and should have been able to open up had he just walked around the jungle behind his own wave.
Now back on into the jungle goes some members. Ninja with the 1 shot will be able to take down Blessed. 1 and 9. I want to say there's been a bit of focus into the jungle, but I just think it's been a case of Blessed doesn't really have that much of an option to not be it. I like the attempt from A&M White to see if they can go for this Oni Fury, but they don't have the health bars to sustain this.
No, and this is part of the reasoning of having vision around fire, because if Alabama Crimson had decided to do that, this Fury would have been a good call. But with Oracles up, there's too much risk without knowing where Alabama Crimson is for A&M White to even start it up. Like, as the first recognition that there was anyone on the left-hand side, as we saw, A&M White's members had to get out immediately or they were likely going to die. And the result here is we're seeing a free tier 2 push in mid.
Certainly, both relics forced on Bucktooth. They will be able to slink away on the barest of HP. Piercing Moonlight may be able to re-engage here if they've got 1 more shot. Nanu does get some good damage with the splash coming through. For some reason, the Bologna's not involved in this fight, which means Zelu getting the free cast. The best person to deal with the Hunter is off doing a blue buff.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little surprised Alabama Crimson didn't decide to set up at that mid Phoenix and possibly just try and get those minions in there at least. I understand you've got Oni waves on the left side, but with the Bologna staying in right to clear Oni waves after taking tier 1 instead of just backing when it's so far up, You had a 3-man advantage there for a good about 30 seconds. There was a good opportunity to possibly get the mid Phoenix. Obviously, this is the safest call. They're going to get Fire Giant here absolutely free. There's nothing A&M White can do about it.
Doesn't appear to be, and it's just a little unfortunate because that was A&M. There was a spark, there was signs of life in that. Bucktooth gets to escape, Nanu gets to get some good shots with the Odysseus's bow, and then Blessed starts coming in. If there's a Bologna, even if Bologna says, all right, I'm not going to be able to back and come in, but it starts coming down so they can head it off. If Alabama Crimson do stick around, then they get a pincer maneuver, but we just see that Rekka ends up sitting back, trying to farm up, and it feels almost like a defeatist mentality of, oh, I can't really come in, I'm too low level, I just gotta farm. I gotta get farm elsewhere, guys.
Not sure if it was his call, if it was the team call, but unfortunately, Bless is sitting here 1-11-1, and he just needs to, at this point, stay with his team and farm. It's not benefiting anyone to be off on your own at this point in the game. And they're going to have to give up this tier, not just this tier 1, but this tier 2 on the left-hand side. You're down a member. You do not have the opportunity to stall under this tier 2 whatsoever. You need your entire team back under the Phoenix immediately. And Bucktooth Joe looks like he's going to be able to back right in time to be able to make it to this Phoenix. But it's going to be very close because Alabama Crimson, they're pushing forward, and they have all the damage and lead in the world to do what they want.
They got a minion wave coming on in. Good 2-man taunt, but it's only the tanks who are dealing with it. Nanu, though, absolutely shreds Mashi on the front end of this engagement. No damage onto the Phoenix either. And no respect from Alabama Crimson there. Nanu's so well positioned in that situation, has got all the bows online now. They are chunking through their health bars. Mashi not able to survive this, though Blast walks forward even a second and gets completely evaporated. Not sure what the call was there. Either way, it didn't look like it's going to work out too well. Now it's just a little bit of a poke trade on that Phoenix, looking to put as much damage as they can. Little Rough tanking it up, taunted back on in, and again, Nanu shreds through them. Nanu is doing damage, but Nanu is destroyed. Zordile finds one and gets a double kill. No, up into the air goes the ROM. Taiko drums come down. 2 shots, all that's needed is a triple kill. Make it a quadra kill. Zordile's done with this. They're ending the game now.
Oh, I'd like to see them try to end the game at least. They do have the man advantage. It's only Blessed up. He's level 13. 3 members that are 18 or higher. There's not much he can do to stop this. If he does manage to last long enough to stall for his teammate, there's a chance that they could possibly defend here.
Dart. He gets one. That's 5-1 Ninja gone down, but the crit's starting to roll on through. Zella's getting low. Good Aegis buys him a little bit of time, and the team will help them. A double D aside off the back, but like you said, it does hold. The Titan will not be able to fall. Red Rosie is back up, so they won't be able to end. Alabama and Crimson, though, they are in pole position at this point in time, and I think now, after that last engagement, I think they know Nanu might be a problem.
Oh, they definitely should recognize that. I'm a little concerned as to why Mashi was the furthest up front with Ninja. I definitely feel like that should have been Roughneck. Not sure if it was just a difference in timing or if they had a different kind of plan just in case Bless went through the back line, which obviously he ended up stepping out of his own volition later on anyways. But the way it lined up is just Mashi's not the tankiest on his team right now. It is Roughneck, and with that Vamp Shroud being able to give himself sustain on top of what he's already got in the kit with this RDO, it definitely should be, I feel like it should be Roughneck engaging. Let Mashi follow up from behind with the blink to wall someone off from getting away or create separation in the fight that favors your team.
Still, though, Alabama Crimson find themselves in a fine enough spot, finding themselves a free hors d'oeuvre, not even a meal or a snack, just something they can look at. Over the wall, eventually the Bologna will be able to go, but now the wall comes on through, buys them time, forces the blink. Lord of the Afterlife trying to chase it down, but instead, holding a little bit of restraint, will go for the Athena on the off chance instead. Force Defender of Olympus, and I like this. It's a TKO on the Bologna. Let's see what else you can force from other members.
Those are 2 good ultimates to get down for Alabama Crimson, and honestly, they may not even have to wait for the Fire Giant to come down. They could possibly try and push up a Phoenix, especially with being fire minions on this left-hand side, but they're going to still decide they want to play it safe, guarantee everything they can. Pyromancer's going to go down absolutely free. They're just going to have everyone Looked like they were gonna have people back spend the gold that they have,
Oh, I
but
think that was on a ward. I
Yeah,
think
Rekka.
Rekka was on a ward there, and so they're just gonna get absolutely blinked down. Beats comes through. There is no one coming to save you now, sweetie. You are up creek without any paddle, and right on time. Fire Giant spawns, leaving this as a 4v5, even if A&M White wanted to try and deal with this.
no, it's another one of those situations. That's twice Rekka went up in a row all alone, and he's been saying this for the past 5 to 10 minutes. You cannot be alone against Alabama Crimson right now. They're rotating well as a team, and every time they see someone alone, they get the kill. A&M White does not have an answer to that, and they need to be thinking about that going into game number 2, because at this point, with how this game is going to continue to being played, you're down 20,000 gold, and this constant separation, it definitely feels like they say, we've lost game 1. What do we do next? So if that's the mentality they currently have, because it's what I'm seeing through their gameplay, they need to be talking about what to change game number 2, because if you're going to be constantly alone and going up like that, you're not going to win any of these games.
Well, now this is where we see whether Alabama Crimson will be able to take through the game. They took all 3 Phoenixes. An Immortal Zord is a good look. Eagles Rally goes in, looking to try and put some damage in onto the Ymir. They will be able to pick them up, but Zordal's free casting on in the back line. Now Nanu being targeted out. Dark Portal is good, but Zella's there to be able to pick him up in the process. Fireball Ninja takes down Blessed. Only the Merlin left to try and deal with it, but the Titan's under too much duress, strain, and pressure. Bucktooth may be able to survive, but it won't be long enough before that Titan will start falling. Alabama Crimson doing the work, putting in the effort here, but don't quite have the health bars to keep it going. Bucktooth is going to hold here.
No, Bucktooth Joe did a little too much damage to a few members of Alabama Crimson there for them to be able to end right away. They had to back off, but Fire Giant just reached them coming in.
There it is. It's just a couple seconds, a small reprieve. The light at the end of the tunnel shut, and Bucktooth Joe not able to hold on long enough. But I'm glad that Alabama Crimson recognized that. They didn't go, oh my god, we can just end, let's just ignore the Merlin, let's just go. Because if that happens, that's a deicide, and we're here for another 5 minutes. But Alabama Crimson marked down game 1 in a dominant fashion, 26 and a half minutes here.
Yeah, and that is from the get-go of this game. It was non-stop for them, getting kill after kill. I mean, Ninja 14-3-16, Zord 12-0-14, and then Zelu 11-1-11. Each of them doing at least 20,000 player damage. And we see the 2 tanks only dying once or twice, still mitigating 30,000+ player damage. So at the end of the day, these guys really had put in everything they could together. One thing I did notice there was 23 wards from the support of A&M White. I don't think I saw anyone else on that team with over 10. That is concerning. That's way too much gold for the support to be putting in to a ward, even if it's coming from a relic. You're still stacking other wards that are being bought on that. And honestly, the rest of the team needs to be supporting a little more on the ward side. You're the support. You need your tank items. You're already far enough behind. 23 is an insane amount in that kind of a game.
It certainly is. Though, good news for A&M White is they have at least one more game, 2, if they're able to take the second game. But to find out how that's going to go, first, we're going to break down this game, and that goes back to King and Doctor over on the desk.
Thank you guys on the cast there. Kind of a one-sided game there, if you ask me, Doctor.
One-sided.
Kind of from minute 1, as soon as that first blood kind of happened, that snowball started rolling, and that was kind of a big stone. It was all clumped around as well.
I mean, it really just completely revolved around Fireball Ninja on that Osiris from, as you said, minute 1. I mean, and let's keep in mind, this is after some Osiris nerfs, so this is Fireball Ninja really putting a show on there, as well as Ymir getting a nerf as well, but neither of those nerfs seem to have really affected those players whatsoever. But I know I'm Desk 2 here, and I'm supposed to do all the analyzing, but I have to ask you, if you're on the side of A&M White, because I know you're a coach here, how do you kind of regroup the team together and get them ready for game number 2? How do you go about that?
I mean, I think the biggest way you can do that is just wipe this from the memory, GG, go next, and figure out what worked well for you, which I think was a big part was that Izanami had a lot of good pressure, as well as the Merlin was able to get a lot of damage as well as he could from behind. But I think we figured out why Tsukiyomi isn't quite in the meta anymore, just got way too far behind and then got very, very much bullied from the rest of the way out in the rest of the game. And I believe he ended at 2-12, got a couple late kills with that Piercing Moonlight, but quite a few times where he just got blinked on, eliminated, and saw a gray screen for more than not, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, Tsukiyomi's not a bad 1v1 character, but when you're going against, you're in a 1v1 versus somebody with about 4 levels on you, it doesn't matter who you're playing, you're just going to lose, and you're going to die very, very quickly. But I do think another thing we need to point out here is Red Rosie Panda on that Athena got picked off so many times early in that game, and it really just felt like they didn't have a support for pretty much most of that game, which meant most of their CC just really wasn't there.
Yeah, not a lot of CC. It didn't really get to that late game, which is necessarily the Athena's fault, where you just have nowhere to ult out, no safe lanes, and not even a jungle that's safe. It can really put that kind of pressure on. But hopefully we'll be able to see them bounce back in Game 2. Before we get into Game 2, we're going to get into a quick break, make sure we got everything set up for you, and we'll be back here on the desk in just a moment with those picks and bans. Welcome back, everybody. Thank you so much for your patience here, getting this all taken care of and bringing you a game 2, which we're going to kind of agree was a little bit of a rougher one, but hopefully they'll be able to bounce back. It does look like we're going to have Alabama Crimson in that first spot, so A&M, with the loss, is going to take that second spot. I think you and I can probably say on the same page here. Who do you think you want to see out banned away?
I mean, we need to see that Osiris thrown away. There is no way you can let Fireball Ninja run that one back with that performance he had right there. And to be honest, with this second pick here for A&M White, I feel like there's some potential for them to maybe do another, target ban per se, lose one of those top picks, pick another top 2 kind of thing. And that's kind of that advantage that second pick can have sometimes.
Well, they are looking... I was surprised at what they've done, but they've definitely identified what was the big thing that ran game 1, which was that Osiris. But outside of that, bans came through pretty quick here, pretty standard. Tiamat, Persephone, Morgan Le Fay, those kind of top 3 mages that we've always seen at the top. Persephone kind of dipped out with some not being in competitive here, but then the Artemis, who seems to be that number 1 hunter go-to, and then of course Gilgamesh and Osiris, but that does leave a couple of picks. Athena might see a rise in the second one, Artio as well. But the other one that I just drew blank on here that's going to be this first pick is the Odin, which Alabama Crimson won the first game. You lock in the Odin second game. I'm already kind of feeling good after that.
It's already looking like a great start there for Alabama Crimson. As you mentioned, this Odin just, I don't know what it is. He just feels like he does everything you could possibly want. The walls are one thing. The walls are great. But on top of that, it's just every other aspect of it. It feels like his slow and his CC are really nice, and he has some great burst damage. It's just an all-around solo laner that can do what feels like just about everything. And a hunter that feels like they can do just about everything, Artemis, which is what A&M White are able to pick up here due to that, more targeted ban there from that Osiris leaves that open for them. And surprisingly, going back to that Merlin, I don't believe Bucktooth Joe had a great performance, but at the same time, nobody really did on A&M White.
Yeah, he didn't really have a great chance to have a performance, as I really hope this is a troll pick here, as Anubis is being hovered here. I mean, understandably, you win game 1 really strong, but if they lock this in, this should be a pretty easy focus here, especially with Merlin's got such good range poke to play into that. Anubis Artemis has some good CC as well. Maybe not the most mobile picks, but not a terrible matchup there. I really hope we don't see this Anubis locked in.
You got to think about this. Odin Circle plus Anubis Circle. It's basically just the epitome of how do hit thing. It's just arena comp. Circles into circles. And with adding the Ares, it does that. Oh, dang it. Now they're just going to be basic. Right, they're gonna play smart and pick a Janus.
Little bit of a tease there. I mean, it would have been interesting to see, especially with how they won game 1, especially because I think with Vamp Shroud, you can even really bully it in the solo lane. Not that I think that's the best idea, especially when you have so many Guardians that I think can go that tankier route and still give you just as much effective damage. But I like this draft so far. You got the Giannis to move around this Odin cage to basically have you guys fight where you want, this Ares for the beads burning. It's maybe not like your go-to top picks across the board, but these are not exactly picks that I'm going to take lightly if I see them on the enemy team.
Not hate to see any of those whatsoever. Nemesis here, picked for A&M White. That's an interesting pick here. Another assassin we have not seen much of, if at all, it seems, in Season 7 so far. So, I mean, I like the idea here. It's gonna, the obvious of Nemesis Ultimate shredding protections off of 2 tanks of Alabama Crimson, which is gonna work out well. The issue comes in now the Phantom that is gonna be required here for A&M White is even more important, and if that's not up, half their team is stuck in that cage and is going to die very, very quickly.
Yeah, especially with that Merlin flicker. Still takes damage now with the change to the Odin cage, leaping or going through. Even with Phantom, you still take a bit of damage. It's not the greatest, as usually we see Odins go more of just an absolutely tanky mass cooldown. I always have shield up, you can't kill me kind of cooldown build. But as we see these bans coming through in the second phase here, 2 Guardians, focused here by Alabama Crimson, knowing that that's kind of where A&M needs is their front line. the Sobek and the Serb, which we've seen a good amount of brand away. But on the other side, this Erlang Bennigan, and again this Apollo. Maybe I'm going out on a limb, but after watching Fireball Ninja in game 1 just absolutely run the game, is this an Apollo jungle target ban? Is that maybe that's what they're banning out here?
To be completely honest, I feel like that would be a fun thing to see, but I don't know how likely that is. But regardless, if there's even that little bit of flex potential there, you might as well get rid of it just so you know where things are going for the most part, at least in these, later half of these picks. But I do like the bans here from Alabama Crimson. Those 2 tanky Guardians that also are pretty strong there in that solo lane, taking those away. So taking out basically, a pseudo 4 options from A&M White there. But A&M White just going to default to the good old reliable there with that Ku Colin, just endless pressure, endless lane bully. But against an Odin, maybe not as much.
Yeah, now is the Cullen picked in here. Can sometimes get around that Odin cage, but does need to be careful in that rage form as he has a dash instead of a leap. Does have those extra abilities, which is anything, but I love the hovers here for Alabama Crimson. Pele presumably would be in for the jungle. Could see it flexed in the solo, but I'm almost positive I want this in the jungle as well. It's going to be in the jungle for Fireball Ninja. This is such a pick that has decent early pressure, especially when you get that level 5, that just ultimate dash to chase down, has so much burst damage when you just play that kit, is going to give him so much early pressure, especially if they want to play into this Nemesis who kind of needs a couple of items before she really starts slapping. The ultimate really kind of scales as the games goes on, so kind of has that earlier pressure, not so much with the Ares, but just around that Pele, and this Hachiman as well, giving Zula such a great bridge of he can either play really safe, make sure he doesn't get ganked, or if he wants to keep diving and this game 2 goes the way of game 1, he's going to be able to be right in the fight and have a good impact immediately.
I think the aspect of Pele that I want to, talk about most here is this knockup, and specifically against that Nemesis in those, 1v1 fights, because it's going to cancel that shield, and that's where a lot of Nemesis's, frustration in a 1v1 is coming through. That healing and just damage, knock back to the, the other player, the Thorns-esque effect is really, really good, but when that's just negated by a knockup, your Nemesis is not going to be able to really ever win those late game 1v1s, and that's a little bit scary. And scary as well is this Ganesh pick, not because it's scary good, but a little because it's scary question mark per se on my side. I'm just not sure I like there is no hard CC, it feels like, on A&M White here, and that's really concerning against just the entirety of Alabama Crimson and how just susceptible they are to some of those CCs.
I mean, I can get the game plan. It's definitely, like you mentioned, that higher comp, but my first thought is if you just get caught out, Ganesha grabbed in the ult while Nem also ults you basically have negative prots at that point while the Merlin's throwing out 8 trillion different stance forms and getting you. So I can understand there's some good potential here. But after game 1, the lineup that Alabama Crimson have with just a little bit earlier focus, and as well as a great late game. They have this Pele who get them to the late game. They have the Odin Ares front line that's going to do so much damage, keep themselves and your team alive, with Ares 2 having such, I believe, basically effectively getting your entire team to, I believe, 50 HP 5 on that ability at max rank. So just be able to sustain in these fights, very safe mid and duo picks in this Hachi and Giannis. Like, I think there's potential, but with these teams, I don't think it's going to be enough. I think Alabama Crimson just has enough pieces to get that late game and run it from there.
And the exact same boat. I mean, you covered basically every point I would cover, so I mean, my job here is done. So, on to the game.
Yeah, all right. Well, with that, we seem to be in the boat. Are we going to be able to see a bounce back here from A&M White, or are the Crimson going to beat them for their money of the ATM, A&M? Sorry for stealing your pun there, Blur. But, Blur, Vengeance, go ahead and take it away on the cast.
Alright, no, well, look, your check bounced on that one, but we'll have to check out how this game's going to go. Alabama Crimson, game 1, had a dominant early game performance, so what does A&M let them do this game? Get just as strong and early dominant looking kind of a comp here, Vengeance. Are we scared about seeing the similar sorts of things happen here?
Well, just like me, there may be a cry of help from A&M White at some point in this game in the first 5 minutes, because there is a Pele in the game in the jungle, and it's on Fireball Ninja, so he's not he's denied, having the Osiris, but he's got something that's almost as good from the assassin side of things. And Blessed is on this Nemesis, which it's an interesting pick. It's gonna be interesting to see how it plays out, considering that ultimate
Duo?
can be burned away just by Roughneck's shield.
Yeah, as you see it over on the duo lane. Level 1, Mashi has the chains, but solo lane, Rekka not able to stand up to the Allfather. Blink forward though from duo side. Great work silencing it out, but I don't know if it's going to be enough. Meanwhile, first blood goes the way of Little Roughneck. Fighter's Mask certainly paying up a lot of dividends for them, and Rekka is not having a fun set.
Oh, Rekka just, for some reason, was closer to where he got caught was very interesting, to say the least. It's near his own wave, and I'm pretty sure it's just the Bird Bomb Fighter's Mask combo.
Yeah, sending in a rescue dog way to just try and help there, but neither way, it's just the Odin is such a strong pick when it comes to the team fight, and the fact that when it comes to laning, Odin doesn't lose lane, but when an Odin wins lane, that's when things can get very, very scary. And while we didn't necessarily see Little Roughneck rotate much the last game, we're still seeing that same focus coming here, because keep a look at where Fireball Ninja is. They're looking to try and make a rotation. They've got Blink. They blink on in. Rekka falls again. Roughneck picks it up. The Nemesis here, still level 2, trying to just hide around the corner, will be able to back away in time just to be able to get away, but Stu kills up in 2 minutes, and now they're looking for a buff invade here at the speed buff. Both members, they're actually setting up an ambush waiting for it. They were looking for the damage. Here it comes. Surprise! This ain't your speed buff anymore. In fact, they're not even looking for the speed buff. They're just looking for the kills. That's just rude. They will not get the buff. They will not get blessed either. Unfortunate spot there. How about Crimson being aggressive as expected?
And that's kind of the disadvantage of not making sure that buff is stripped away, because that XP is what's allowed Blessed to hit 3 in that situation and get out safely, have his shield up. It's interesting decision making, but just not executing quick enough, so they get absolutely nothing out of it. And we actually see something good out of the duo side for ANMY, is Nanu's gotten a kill at level 3 onto Mashi, the support. So it looks like playing more defensively against this aggressive areas has paid off for them very well, and they're gonna try this again, but I'm pretty sure Rekka knows what's happening.
I believe they do. Oh, but that was the jump in. Odin Cage is available. They should be able to use it, but a good stun, and it should be just Fireball Ninja to clean it up. Roughneck holding the tower's aggro as long as possible as well, making sure that Ninja is able to get on out of there. Great work, but like we saw, ANMY in the duo lane are able to take down Mashi on this Ares, which is not too bad of a look for them. So while they're sitting back under this tower, the Jazz did mention there's not a whole lot of hard CC, but the stuff that there is will keep someone held down for a fairly long time, at least a single target.
May not be a lot of hard CC, but with the kit that Ganesh brings, the silence and knockup is more often than not more than enough, whether it's an engagement or disengagement. Make sure that your teammates are either getting the kill or getting out in time. Especially once he hits level 5, having those Dharmic pillars, the dot damage they bring, members either got to choose to sit in them or try and get out. And if they try and get out, a lot of players, they love that timing on the knockup dot damage.
Well, out comes the Odin Cage. Salmon leapt over, but Fireball Ninja was waiting for it. And honestly, if you're gonna have a name of Fireball Ninja, could we just put out Pele with that skin? Probably the best choice of a god to pick up. So it's like home field advantage for skins. So no wonder they're having such a good time on it. Crusher picked up first item. This is one that kind of never seems to get picked up recently. Why is that?
It's just with how builds are right now. Ever since boots got removed, certain items got buffed, nerfed. The dot damage hasn't really been there. That's been needed for this item, especially with Mannequin Scepter and Warriors being played so much. This more hybrid style has been chosen lately, but the dot damage is great for Fireball Ninja because of the abilities got in that kit. Provides a little bit of extra damage and suits well.
Nemo comes down, as we can see a little bit of an unfortunate altercation going through. Blink from Rekka, not going to be able to find enough damage. That would have been a great kill for them to turn around, but it looks like Alabama Crimson instead used that opportunity. The Yana snipe, not going to be on point, unfortunately, but Fireball Ninja over on the left-hand side finds another kill to put their name credit on. And Zordal here in the mid lane, this Janus, we've not seen much focus at all into the mid lane, and for Janus, that's great. The free option to try and rotate out is fantastic if they want to do that later on, but free farm in the mid, I'm totally down for that.
That's something. It's a little surprising that A&M White's actually allowing him to have this much farm. He's already had Chronospin online. So does Buck, but unfortunately for him, he's going to find himself down at level and have 2 levels at this rate, especially since both neutral mids just went the way of Alabama Crimson. And this is something that it needs to be addressed very quickly by A&M White as a whole. If you're going to give up free farm, especially to Yanis, we just saw last game what it's like for Osiris and Raijin to get ahead. Yanis who can get ahead and have that much damage on you without even having items is a lot scarier.
They certainly are. The good thing, though, that A&M White have is most of their lead is, hold that thought, Dharmic Pillars come through, the portal not going to be quite good enough to drop anyone through. The Ganesh held their own, falls back, not going to end up falling in that engagement, but taking a lot of damage for their troubles. But as I was saying, a lot of this gold lead right now feels like it is mostly on the right-hand side. So I do want to see Bucktooth not just seed lane for no reason.
No, that's the concern that I was bringing up before. It's if you're going to give up so much farm, especially if it's going to be backing, you're essentially saying mid lane may be just given up absolutely free. So we do see a Beads forced here with the chains. Not much else. He did almost get Zord there, though, with a nice little combo. Unfortunately, it's not enough damage. That level lead still proving to be a little bit much for the health stacking. And this...
Just a touch. This is an interesting spot that Roughneck finds themselves in. The shield is going to do good work for them. Just trying to wait out as much as they can on the damage, but under 150 health. That health shield, 400 plus 50% of your power at that point. There's the turnaround they needed, waiting on it. Blessed will be the one to secure the good. There are 4 members over here. Make that 3. Fireball Ninja just evaporates down Rekka, trying to make their way out. Bucktooth gets the kill, but gets blindsided by the through space and time. 2 for 2 trade on out. A&M White, they find some good picks.
Uh-oh. Barely getting out of that one alive. Look at the ultimate from Nanu. Quite a few shots as well. But just looking at these build differences across the board, we see the Ikavel online for both hunters. Difference being that tier 2 on the Odibo is up for Zello. We see both Gone with Thebes, difference in 9 stacks. And both mages building the same so far as well. The difference so far is going to be the junglers. Mannequin Scepter versus Eye of the Jungle. Stone Cutting Sword versus Crusher. It looks like we're already going into Erendite for Fireball Ninja, whereas Blessed has started his pen item. And then both tanks, a much different approach. One opting for that warrior axe, and the other just opting to go straight into breastplate.
And I don't mind the call of going into the breastplate, just getting that cooldown online. You can save your starter item for a little bit later. Who knows, maybe we see Animosity or Compassion come out. You could still buy it in solo, you just can't get it quite as early. You're sort of looking at level 10, maybe 12 sort of time, if you still want to go that way. But I'm actually here being a little bit quiet over on this area. He's still looking to try and do some good work, just zoning away for now. And one thing that we didn't get to mention last game is that Red Rosie, at 18.5 minutes, had 44 stacks on this Gauntlet of Thebes, so already in a much better position here. And is this something that is going to help out a lot more? But for that, a little bit more aggression. Red Rosie may not have the opportunity to help out if they get that low again. Through space and time, not going to find home once again, but is having Red Rosie feel more comfortable and more in the game gonna help out A&M White a little bit more early on?
It's only going to help if they can control their side lanes in terms of death and control of the lane. Like, we're already seeing Rekka is 0-5-2.
And looks like
And now with the gank onto the left-hand side of the map, you've taken the first spill on Nanu. It's now a 2.5 level lead for Zella while he's alive, free farming. So this is really where focus needs to be given, because Bucktooth Joe so far, hasn't been having a bad time. He's died once, sure, but he hasn't lost his tower quite yet. He's been able to keep himself around in terms of level and farm. So Red Rosie being stacks, it's nice, but Red Rosie's ban, their tankiness isn't going to matter if they're the only tank you have and no damage to back it up.
Right, so in that instance, Mashi, okay, going very deep for it. I think Blessed was window shopping, and Zella will happily punish that, grabbing a kill with the mounted archery. Now Zord is also over this side between a rock and a hard place, or at least a tier 1 and tier 2 tower. We'll be able to slip on away, and that tier 1 tower is not long for the world. First rubble goes on down. Alabama Crimson now starting to turn the screw just that little bit tighter here. Red buff invaded. They show no signs of backing down over here. Zelu pushing onto the tier 2 tower at this point. That was a dash forward aggressively by Rosie, forced to use the Dharmic Pillars now, and will end up falling, trying to set up something for their teammates. But at that point, you have to know that you cannot go in there. The rest of Alabama Crimson are bloodthirsty at this point in time.
And this just spills a little over onto the ADC as well. Zella gets a kill onto Nanu. Now a 4-level lead, finding himself 2-0-0. And if this is just starting to replay from last game, sure, it's taking a little bit longer to get here. Those are a little bit closer in terms because it's 12-3 instead of 16-0. But at the end of the day, we're 12 minutes in. We still, it's a 7k gold lead, climbing up towards 10. And there's no sign of A&M White being able to stop Alabama Crimson right now. This is the second game in a row where they find themselves, sure, they had a little bit better at the very beginning of the game, but it's gotten back to that point of Crimson is able to find the one individual pick they need to just be able to run it down towards A&M White. They got to just start working on whether it's their overall communication across the map or saying, hey, we just need a group, stay alive as much as we can. If we catch them where we have numbers, we can probably take 1 or 2.
And look at this, Roughneck now taking down that tier 1 tower. Finds Bless over that side, doesn't panic, just goes ahead and throws out the ult. Now the rest of the team is over here through space and time. He's going to come through, ends up clipping and almost decimating Rhea at that point. Ninja will find the last hit necessary, and we can see, like you were mentioning, finding that target and weakness on A&M White. It's been this solo side 0-7-2, but it's spilling on out into these other lanes. Dharmic Pillars to try and dissuade some members. Will slow down the assault, but no escape for this. Ganesh will pull them right on back in. Mashi finds the kill as well.
All of this because Rekka decided to continue chasing down an Odin that he was 3 levels down to. I don't know if it was miscommunication between him and Blessed on what they wanted to do, but chasing that's just not the right call. You just recently lost to tier 1. You don't know where the enemy is, and based off how game 1 went, I would be way more weary of any part of the jungle I don't see.
Ninja, you got to be careful walking through some of that damage, as you saw a bit more aggression coming through them, but it almost feels like a fruitless effort from or a relatively easy thing for Alabama Crimson to be able to just go, oh yeah, we can fight now, and sway through people. The health bars get chunked so quickly. Like you mentioned, these health bars, very difficult. Zella looking to try and get a bit aggressive themselves. There's a 5-level difference here, but it is still a 2v1. Make that a 3v1 because Rekka has made an early rotation over to this side as the Gold Fury has spawned. Zella, though, still being overly aggressive in this position. Will get their beats forced, does not have the ultimate available to them. Dharmic Pillars and Caledonian Ball come out, but they still find the kill in a 1v3 situation. Now the rest of the team's looping around, and Zella may be the sacrificial lamb in this spot. Rekka getting them some much needed golden XP there, but it's not going to matter much. The other 4 members from Alabama Crimson are here, and it's only a matter of time before Rekka falls.
There was a brief moment I thought there where if Rekka's team decided to collapse right behind Alabama Crimson, they may be able to find 1 or 2 more kills, because of the way Rekka was dodging there and just pulling them along was actually very well compared to how this game's been going so far for him. Just to be able to string people along up until he finally got CC'd into place. It was interesting to see, but unfortunately for him, A&M White decided that they're just gonna sit back, farm, let him die as well. So yes, you took down Zella finally, 3-1-0. You know, he's got a 5-level lead. It's been slowed down a little bit, but unfortunately, you still traded Solo Laner out after losing your ADC
Good
and now the Gold
work.
Fury as well.
And just great recognition there from Alabama Crimson saying, hey, let's pull it back just a touch. Let's not throw our lead in this situation. They get themselves the Gold Fury, and they can very easily then pick up whatever they need to in that spot. Roughneck finds themselves a double kill, a little bit more farm to steal away. Blessed has just been trying to absolutely power farm through the jungle here, and on a Nemesis who needs to hit late game, the desk mentioned that Alabama Crimson, they've got these three, they like running these kind of very tanky guards, so taking that away can really help them, but it's still a Nemesis, and you still need those levels to get to that stage.
Yeah, I mean, across the board, we're looking at 4 levels in solo, 2 in jungle, 2 in mid, 2 in support, and 5 in the ADC role. And this is just that point of this game is still in a position that they can come back and win. But my question at this point is, are they there enough mentally to do so? Because the decisions I'm seeing is everything that was still wrong with game number 1. People are off all on their own when Alabama Crimson's getting aggressive, and they've been doing it for the past about almost 7 or 8 minutes. And A&M White at that point have to recognize we need to get together.
All through space and time takes Blessed and then Divine Retribution out. Fireball Ninja securing the kill. All members from Alabama Crimson diving very deep behind this. No Escape comes through, picks up 2, and that's a double kill now for Fireball Ninja. There's a brilliant use of the Ring of Spears there, blocking off the escape into the area. Zealous picks up 1. Lulroth finds another. 4 members go down. Caledonian Boar to try and help, but it's mostly just to call the retreat. Roughneck will now be able to disengage and make sure Zella gets through without any issues. The health bars are a little too low to keep this going for much. They're just going to hold on and wait for the minions to push into this tier 2 tower. Honestly, they might be able to go for a Phoenix here as well, but health bars just a little too low for that.
Yeah, the respawn time is still a little too fast. I'm take Phoenix in that situation since they didn't decide to take that tier 2 any sooner. Wait on minions instead. So they're just gonna have to settle for going back, getting as many camps as they can, stripping away farm from A&M White. And right now, 24-4 terms of kills, all 6 towers standing for Alabama Crimson, only 2 left for A&M White. We're looking at roughly 12,000 gold lead right now, and there's no sign of A&M White with their decision making and pathing that they're going to be able to come back in this game unless they pull off some huge defense when they're all stacked together. Because, I mean, yet again, look at the map. They're spread across the board. Who's not? Alabama Crimson. They're split up 2 and 3.
And they're just going to be able to tear down whoever they want. We see these sort of 2 mini death balls that they spot and wreck. It feels like A&M, I don't want to say don't know what to do, but they're unsure on the best way that they can do it. Everyone's going, I'm behind, I need to farm. And so their logical conclusion is, I need to farm, I need to not split, as unfortunately, they're not going to get a choice on how they're going to get split, because members are just going to get torn away from them, pulled back in, and now 3 members end up falling again on this side of the map. Now, this time, there's no tier 2 tower, so if they want, they can just siege this middle Phoenix here in under the 20-minute mark. They will start a siege on the mid Phoenix. I just want to stress that point there.
No, I really don't blame Crimson at all. They have the advantage. They've been yet again, second game in a row, playing to that advantage every bit that they possibly could, especially upon recognizing when they needed to slow it down so they don't throw it away, which was just good on their part. And Roughneck, I already know what he's thinking here. Just clear the wave. I have my shield and my leap to get out. He's confident in his level advantage and tankiness that A&M White won't, especially with how they've been playing, they won't group up in time to take him down. And that's exactly what happens. So in the meantime, Fire Giant's taken absolutely free, and now Roughneck becomes the, oh, I need to run away from.
Yeah, and that's just an unfortunate look when you got 3 members here and you still have to go, we can't fight that. Let's not do that. It's a very scary situation. We talked about how good this Odin can be in the laning phase. This ain't the laning phase anymore. This is the team fight stage where they really start to ratchet things up. No Phantom online, which the desk stressed that they wanted as well. So this Odin's impact has just skyrocketed.
It is concerning that there's no Phantom, but I'm going to be honest, I don't think it would make a difference here. The way Crimson's been playing with their lockdown and the timing on these cages, these are situations where that Phantom's not saving anybody. The same people would fall most likely around the same area, especially when Ares is still getting pulls in, meaning that beads are either down or being burned effectively enough to where he's able to get at least one member brought back in. And yet again, this being split up so much, you can't help your team.
Certainly, even when they are grouped up at this point, it's just too little too late. Red Rosie ends up falling to the hand of the Crimsons, so they will just go down. Fireball Ninja just using what they have and available to them. And don't mind the call for the ultimate there. It takes another member off the board. No one, or one less member left to be able to defend this left-hand side Phoenix, which looks like is where they're going to have to try and turn their attention towards. That said, in mid, Blink forces beads away on Blessed, and the whole time, no one for an A&M even makes an attempt at the left side Phoenix defense. Now, Alabama Crimson, with their exorbitant 20,000 gold lead in 22 minutes, can start rapping on the Titan door. Can't quite take this Phoenix yet. There's still a tier 1, a tier 2 tower remaining for them. Zella's going to realize that shortly, but they're playing it slow. They've got Oni fire minions in mid, Oni minions in left. This is like a forced mate in 4 here.
This is they're ignoring a wave that's attacking Titan. Granted, it isn't fire, but that is still poke damage being done to the Titan. And honestly, with the positioning coming here, I think these Oni fire minions may find their way in on the Titan for free. Alabama Crimson can probably just play around in this Phoenix as much as they want.
Look at that. Look at that. It's just blinking from Wrecker. 4-man knockup. No one bats an eye. No one even cares at that point. Nanu ends up falling, which is a big recognition from last game how important Nanu was in these defenses. Zella is able to just rip down the Phoenix. Absolutely brilliant to see. Now they go in aggressive for the fight here. Back on in. Fireball Ninja is divine. Zella picks up another. 2 members left, but not very many going to be standing for much longer. Double kill for Zella. And the Titan's not much longer for this world. 23 minutes here and 22,000 gold up. Alabama Crimson take A&M to the bank 2-0.
Little to zero work for Alabama Crimson to do on the Titan there. Oni fire minions just got that Titan below half health by the time they even got there. This is just A&M White. They're going to want to go back to the drawing board, review this VOD extensively, and just look at it. I mean, this is for them. This is a huge learning experience rewatching this set. There's so much that could have been changed. And the biggest thing for me is just the decision not to be grouping up at all and to stay split when Alabama Crimson is roaming as 3 or 4 consistently, or even not trying to take advantage of that and counter rotate somewhere else to find that last one alone.
Yeah, it was an unfortunate look, but like you said, it's a good learning experience, and definitely there is some fire in there. You know, a couple of plays did look certainly as if they had some understanding. Is obviously when you're at that much of a deficit, it's very difficult to find any points to be able to shine on things. That said, I'm gonna go ahead and throw this back on over to the desk to round this one out.
Blur and Vengeance back on here with the desk with Dr. Thanatos, and more of the same from game 1, but as they touch a little bit on the desk, I think this is a great learning experience. Alabama Crimson really shows how to play Smite well, and I think there's a lot of things that A&M White could take away from that.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think it really is just a player by player skill gap kind of thing. I mean, Fireball Ninja, as I said, definitely SOC, SEC quality for my money. So obviously he's, Blessed there is going to have a little bit more trouble. But again, you can take what you saw that UA Crimson were doing there, grouping up early and fast and really putting pressure where they knew they had advantages. So that's something you can easily, take that and use it in your next games and maybe even be second place in this division here if you're really taking that advice.
Yeah, and like I said, I think it was very much there, but we did see some part. I know Lil Roughneck on that Odin was doing constant blue buffs in Evade, and eventually he did get punished for it. His only death of that game, on one of the 4 that ended up being for Alabama Crimson, and that was off of continued ganks over there by Blessed, understanding that he's got decent play into the Odin. Once his cage is down, he's got decent chase down until they were eventually able to get that kill. But yeah, definitely a learning experience, I think, for these boys. They did decently well as far as like the comps they have. Like we talked, it was a high execution, but not an impossible comp. We saw some shines of that with the Ganesh and Merlin combo, getting some good damage off in those fights. I think Merlin had 17k, only beaten out in that match by the Pele, who went 13-1. So by no means is this anything that they need to be ashamed of, but definitely a good learning experience to where later down the season, maybe this match, instead of being a 32-40, might be a 32-34, or a little bit closer along those lines.
Yeah, definitely interested to see where A&M White fall in the rest of this division here because it definitely looks, I mean, this is week 1, so take everything with a complete grain of salt here. It does look like I have to say that UA Crimson definitely going to be near the top of this division, but that we have not seen any of those other teams. So it could be, the other teams are even better, or maybe they're a little worse off, and A&M White look even better. It's only time will tell, and the only way to tell is to tune in to these collegiate division matches every single week.
Yeah, with that, we're going to end our broadcast here today. Again, myself and Dr. Thanatos here on the desk with Vengeance and Blair taking a wonderful cast. Always good to have them around. But tune in tomorrow. We're going to plan on a 2 EST broadcast as well as a 5 EST. I believe the 5 o'clock will be another collegiate match. Not sure what we will have at 2 EST, but regardless, be sure to tune in. Always drop in the Discord where you can get the notifications that go in live, as well as if you do want to compete, it's always in there. But for ourselves on the desk as well as the cast, you guys have a great Western weekend and smite on.